Hello there, very good morning and welcome to Newsline, Monday's edition of Newsline with me, Shayan Silva, and with me I have Faraz Shaukat Ali. Good morning, Faraz.
Very good morning, Shayan. And where have you been these 2 weeks and so?
Well, I was actually involved with the election work, Faraz, and now back into Newsline.
Nice to see you.
And likewise, how was your weekend?
Absolutely top.
Brilliant. Let's get down to business. First of all, taking a look at the Island newspaper. The headline says, President to meet UPFA constituents. Also, there's another story which says that the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, which was appointed to investigate corruption, has come under fire. Now, in the meantime, the Ceylon Independent has said that there's a jumbo cabinet of 90 on the way. That is the lead story of the Ceylon Independent, as well as a couple of other stories with regard to Vikramatunga to Australia as envoy, and sneak peek to unofficial list of ministerial appointments. In the Daily Mirror, we have the lead story, which is SLFP to help rectify anomalies, and that is something that the party is looking at on the grassroots level for us, as well as a story with regards to the opposition must select the opposition leader. That's a statement from Vimal Veeravansa, which also is echoed in the daily news as well. Right, so moving on to the stories in detail, actually. For us, President to meet UPFA constituents.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the story now? This is with regards to a proposed meeting between the President and Vimal Veeravansa, Vasudeva Nanayakkara and Dinesh Gunawardena. Faraz, your thoughts?
Well, the President is clearly trying to secure stable government, and it's important because some sections have referred to this as a national government, and there is some doubt as to whether this is really a national government that Mr. Vikramasinghe is trying to achieve, because obviously the word national denotes all the parties, and so here they're trying to make some progress on that issue. It's welcome news that they are being inclusive, but they must hurry up and do it. It's nearly 2 weeks now.
Speaking of being inclusive, Faraz, the jumbo cabinet of 90 on the way. This is the Ceylon Independent story. It talks about 45 ministers and 45 deputy ministers. What are your thoughts on this story?
Well, the 19th Amendment has provision for a limit on the number of cabinet ministers and deputies, 30 plus 40, total 70. But it also has provision to breach that limit in the instance where the majority party forms a national government, and national government is defined in Article 1946(5), saying that it is the majority party forming a government along with the other parties in Parliament. In the eyes of a layman, that would appear to mean the other parties would mean all the other parties. The Sinhalese version says Paksha, which is, I believe, the plural of party, making it parties. An interesting proposition, but I wonder whether Mr. Vikramasinghe is attempting to call this a national government only merely to secure the numbers, the additional numbers. Really speaking, if they wanted to control these crossovers on this conscience vote business, they could have kept the limit to 30 and 40 constitutionally, no matter what, whether it was a national government or a coalition or whatever. That way, people crossing over supposedly for conscience, on the grounds of conscience vote, will have no choice but they can exercise that, but they're not going to be getting any positions. So no positions.
Just taking a step back for us, and just for the benefit of our viewers, in such a scenario, what would be the role of the opposition in such a situation?
What is proposed now is a very strange scenario in the making. We have a president who is then sending some people across to the United National Party to make up the numbers. So the opposition, the second largest party, is actually going to be part of the government. And so here we have the opposition and the government all under the same umbrella. And yet we have, we mustn't forget that the way the people have voted, the TNA is the third largest political force. And technically, they're right when they say that the leader of the opposition role should be with them. Unless, of course, the SLFP splits and has a different independent group, but that's hypothetical.
Far as in keeping with your story about the TULF being the third strongest force, or rather the TNA being the third strongest force, in an article in the Daily Mirror this morning, we have a statement made by the Tamil United Liberation Front, led by V. Anand Sangari, has objected to the claim of the Ilangai Tamil Arsakachi, also known as the TNA, that the leader of the opposition should be the party's leader.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts stemming from that story, Faraz?
Well, it's clear that the TNA is the third force, however small they may be compared to the others. And we can't be fixing democratic norms to suit various vested interests. We must proceed along the right lines, especially because we must remember the main thing here, that this president was elected and therefore Mr. Wickramasinghe's way was also paved, and the other way around too, on the grounds that this country required good governance. 49 organizations and various political parties came together to achieve that regime change, and we saw the defeat of President Rajapaksa in January. So we mustn't lose sight of this requirement for good governance.
Exactly. For us, we also have a story in the Daily Mirror which says that Ranil stops demolition of old buildings in the city. We will, of course, be having the Mayor of Colombo, His Worship A.J. Muzammil, in a few minutes to speak to us and give his comments on that story. But in the meantime, we have another story that appeared in the Island today. The Commission under fire for rejecting public petitions targeting corruption. I'm referring to here the Special Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating corruption has rejected several hundred complaints received from the public. Faraz, what are your thoughts on this story?
Well, the way I've understood it, this Presidential Commission of Inquiry has a very specific time period to deal for any complaints that have happened only during that slot. So it starts, in essence, for the Rajapaksa years, and it finished until the 9th of January 2015. So from 2005 to 2015. That's their terms of reference. So any complaint that is out of this slot will not be entertained. That doesn't mean that there are other agencies like the FCID, the CID, the police, and the Bribery Commission. There are many other avenues for these complaints. This Presidential Commission, which has its Secretary Lasil de Silva, is dealing with a very specific time slot. So if your complaint is out of that time slot, you can take your complaint somewhere else, and they'll tell you where as well.
So in short, for us, what you're saying is that a layman, a person on the street, if he were to make a complaint to this commission, that this commission in itself would actually guide the complainant, would actually channel him, would direct him to the relevant authority that in fact has the mandate and the power to investigate such a complaint in the present circumstances.
That's right.
We also have, as we mentioned a few minutes earlier on, in the Ceylon Independent, it refers to Wickramatunge to Australia as envoy. This is, of course, in reference to the former chairman of the Sunday Leader newspaper and, of course, the brother of the slain and founding editor of the newspaper, Lasantha Wickramatunge, is tipped to be nominated as the new Consul General in Canberra, Australia. Faraz, your thoughts on
Well, on the one side, it's heartening to note that the United National Party, the party of choice for the late Lasantha Wickramatunge, the editor of the Sunday Leader paper, has not been forgotten. The family hasn't been forgotten. But more importantly, more important than appointing Lal Wickramatunge as the Consul General in Canberra or to some city in Australia, is the need to continue and come bring to a closure the investigation and to hold somebody responsible and accountable for the murder of Lasantha Wickrematunge. That's the issue here. This is the party, his party is in power now, and they really must have an inquiry and be approached that along with the same vigor that they spoke of when they were in the opposition. Now that they're in power, it is incumbent that the Lasantha Wickrematunge case be brought to a closure. Somebody somewhere needs to be held accountable and responsible for that.
Speaking of change in stance and in the regime as well, we are going back to a story which we touched on, which is the Daily Mirror story. Ranil stops demolition of old buildings. This is in reference to the Prime Minister's stance with regards to the demolition of old buildings and buildings that were not required in the beautification of the city of Colombo. We actually have with us this morning the Mayor of Colombo, His Worship A.J.M. Muzammil. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
First of all, sir, what are your thoughts on this story that is appearing in the Daily Mirror?
Yeah, before I come to that, I have to clear a confusion that has been created by my good friend Farah Shaukat Ali about the formation of the national government. You see, the Constitution in the 19th Amendment is very clear. You can form a national government with a single party in the opposition.
I'm going to have to beg to differ with you.
No, I'm telling you, at the committee stages, it was amended, and I'm very clear about it. Even with a single political party, you can form a national government.
We must maintain our stance.
I stand on that because that is a confusion, and I don't want. One moment, I don't want the public to be misled because the interpretation of the Constitution is very clear. Because it was decided, and at the committee stages, it was seen that even with one member, even with Douglas Devananda in Parliament, you can form a national government. So that's my position is very clear. Anyway, that's a debatable issue.
Yes, right? we will have a look at
that is the constitutional
the government website carries the version.
I'm not interested in not the website question, but I'm only talking about how the Constitution was amended, and at the last stages in the 19th Amendment, at the committee stages, it was amended that even with one political party in the opposition, you can still form a national government. Right. Now, coming back to the demolition, to stop the demolition of the old traditional heritage buildings in the city of Colombo. Well, if you look at you see, it is our Prime Minister Ranil Wickrematunge in his, you see, when he started this government, he had a program of the emerging city of Colombo. In that program, it was very clear that all heritage buildings have to be preserved. Because in a developing city, it is very important to see all these landmarks are preserved. You maintain those because those are the landmarks.
So they're no different to what you did together with Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, along with the race course, the Independence Square, and so on. You preserved old buildings.
You see, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa took the booklet of the Honorable Ranil Wickrematunge, and he followed it to the letter.
So
he implemented the program set by my leader. In his program.
When did your leader set this?
That is when he was the Prime Minister.
In 2000.
Yes, that is the developing emerging city.
Right.
Right. So that is that program. You see, even though it was set by our Prime Minister and it was his vision, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa didn't defer to that. He followed it.
So he did a good job.
Of course, with the support of the municipal council. You see, I became the mayor of Colombo, and I supported every good thing that has been done in the city of Colombo.
But at times it's got you into trouble. For example, attending Chogam. They weren't very happy that you attended Chogam.
I was never in trouble. To tell you very honestly, It was a decision taken by the party. As a mayor, I was never restricted by my party. Not yet.
But there was some controversy.
I mean, you see, the controversies are there always. It is always there. But it is, I follow my leader and I take the decision, instructions from my leader.
Mr. Muzamil, during the elections, why did we not see you contesting for a seat?
No, I was a member of parliament. There was a huge demand for a woman representation in parliament. You see, the leader thought she should give a Muslim lady a representation in parliament. That was the decision taken by the leader. So, so he thought the best option would be to give to Mrs. Muzamil, not because she was my wife, because she had such a large organization, large network of women following with her. So he thought that it was very unfair, because the issue came up from the provincial council, so she tried to contest the provincial council election. So that was somehow, it did not take place.
It went past Mr. Wickramasinghe that the provincial council would have been a good place for Mrs. Muzamil to start.
You see, there would have been, you see, the provincial council is not that all that matter, is an important election, but of course he had to keep the party structure also going on. So he made, he thought that it would be better for her to contest parliamentary election and get a Muslim lady elected to parliament. So that was his dream.
And it now still remains a dream, because unfortunately Mrs. Muzamil wasn't able to be elected, not enough votes. How do you feel, Mr. Muzamil, personally, because you have been a long and loyal supporter of Mr. Wickramasinghe? Finally, we have Mr. Wickramasinghe in with a chance for 5 years for a full term. How do you feel?
Of course, that is what this country was looking forward.
You waited a long time for this.
I mean, of course, it's in politics. Mr. Wickramasinghe had the patience.
Well, the patience.
He had the patience.
And do you think now, but even with all that weight, he still doesn't have the majority, and he's counting on the support of our dear president, who has generously agreed to send in the troops to bolster the minority government.
No, it is not a minority government. Please understand.
But it is 106.
No.
106.
That is where everybody is making a mistake. This is going to be one of the most stable government that this country ever had since independence.
It's about time too.
That is, you see, we have a president who is very well elected by the majority of the UN, and the president has not forgotten.
And I don't
see, it is although the opposition, all the interested parties opposed to the regime of Mahinda Rajapaksa, they came in as one unit, and Mr. Wickramasinghe gave in to the demand of all of them to sacrifice his position. He gave in because he thought that is the democracy. So you see, he has sacrificed his position many times, and even the call, he responded. He responded. I mean, you see, so that is how he projected himself as the national leader. And now we got the Rajapaksa. Our priority was to get the Rajapaksa regime rejected, thrown out of office. We did that. So we got a president elected, and the president has very well accepted Ranil Wickramasinghe as the prime minister, and now we are going to form a very stable government.
To fulfill the vision of the president of this country.
Not the president,
so this is the
vision
government.
of the people of this country. Please remember that. It is the people's wish, and we have to look forward to fulfill the wish of the people of this country.
But no president, no members would mean that Mr. Wickramasinghe is in the minority. Now he must be very happy and grateful to our president for having sent in the troops.
It's either way, it speaks either way. The president also must be happy that Ranil accepted and gave him the opportunity to contest, and fully supported him to make him the president.
So much so
he
that
must be happy.
So much
he must
so
be
that
happy.
he dissolved the parliament.
He is also grateful. I mean, president also remembers that very well, and he is very grateful. And so it is either way. I mean, you see, both you need two hands to clap. So the best two hands is I must say, it is very fortunate that this country is very lucky. this country is blessed. That one thing, that we got the Rajapaksas rejected, the Rajapaksas were thrown out of this office, people rejected. In spite of such a massive power they had, it was, one time it was unbelievable that Rajapaksa regime could be changed.
But it is because the people have voted wisely, and they have hopefully elected the people who are committed to achieving and delivering the people's mandate.
I'm sure a team like a person who has a very, very far-sighted vision and a person who can combine a team of politicians to implement that. So the two combination
Is unbeatable.
Is unbeatable. I would say, although they are coming from two different political parties, it is a combination like the Jaya Jayawardene and the Premadasa in the 70s.
And hopefully you won't be forgetting the issue of the pressing issues of national reconciliation in this whole gamut. But wouldn't it have been better to bring the TNA and give them...
Well, TNA is a political party that they would survive better being in the opposition rather than being a part of the government. If I
even part of a national government.
You see, the problem is the national government they will be able to support while being in the opposition. I remember very well, you know, when Ashraf was invited by President Premadasa to form he supported Premadasa to become the president of the country in 1988. But he said, I will sit in the opposition and support him. And when while he was seated in the opposition, when President Premadasa was impeached, Ashraf supported. So you see, you don't need to be a part of the government to fight for the rights of the people. You'll be in a better position for the national reconciliation to discuss with the government the issues while being seated in the opposition. They will be in a better footing. I mean, they are part of the government. You must understand, they are part of the government because they have supported the president.
Talking of good governance, a thought has just occurred to me. The national list. We had a member of the United National Party, Krishanta Kure, who gave up his national list slot for greater things. And then we have a situation where Anoma Gamage has been put on the national list. What does she bring to this national list that somebody else doesn't have? Why this change and all that? Why can't we stick to the list?
You see, there is in the national list, you must understand it is the decision taken by, it is the decision the party leader takes.
Right.
The national list.
So it's one
more
various
times
leader.
it is always, the national list is becoming subject to criticism. Look at the UPFA national list. What has happened?
Let's look at just the UPFA list.
When you want to analyze, you have to analyze with both sides. You see the UPFA, all the defeated candidates, we are not opposed to that.
Right.
Because that is the decision the president is taking. The president feels that they must be in parliament. So they must be, because they must be.
What about
so
Mrs. Gamage?
You see, the women representation has come down. But number one point, you see, she has been contributing for the women affairs in the UNP, while in the UNP, while in the opposition. So she was the only women representative in parliament. We lost Rosie Senarayaka in the process, right? One person who should have been. You lost Mrs. Muzamil, no representation. So you see, the leader has to balance it. Just because Anoma Gamage, because Daya Gamage, on his own merit, he has been able to make it on his own merit in the Ampara.
So why couldn't Mrs. Gamage also contact?
No, you can't. You see, the problem is, it is the decision of the party to make a combination. You see, we need to make the rightful combination. We need representation.
So what then? Why put Mr. Kure on the list anyway? Why, if the leader had so much of vision about this underrepresentation, why put him in the first place? And so stop all this speculation. Why not do that?
No. You see, it is that you should not be in a position to challenge the leader's decision, because he has a plan for everyone. He has a plan for everyone. So you don't have to be in parliament to be a part of the development process.
Right, so she could have, Mrs. Gamage could have been left behind.
No, because a women representation in parliament is required. So that may be the thought. I would have been very happy. Kishan Thakure is my good friend to be in parliament. But this
It
is
could
not
be anyone.
That. Yeah, this is not there. Because it is the leaders, they make initiative. So we have to. So likewise, President Maithripala has taken decisions in the national. Nobody could be able to question that because he must be having his own plans. So you see, today a lot of people are criticizing a lot of how on earth, because one thing, our leaders stick to one position, very clear. He said no defeated candidates will be entertained.
It's absolutely such absolute amazing loyalty from Mr. Muzammil for his leader. Wonderful, wonderful, really.
Faraz, I'm going to interrupt you there. And actually, speaking of the vision of the Prime Minister, and Your Worship, you mentioned the fact that...
But sorry, it's not the loyalty. I'm only putting forward facts.
You mentioned the fact that the Prime Minister had a clear mandate with regards to the beautification and the development of the city, and bringing us back to the story which we touched on, and then we moved from there. What plans would be in the offing with regards to the restoration of these buildings? Now we know that in some instances there are occupants, there are people who have been there for generations in these buildings. I'm speaking in reference to the buildings in Slave Island,
One thing is very clear: our leader will not throw out anybody on the streets. You see, all these rehabilitation programs have to take place. We will be in a position to decide, because you must understand there is another program that is going to be launched by the leader, the megapolis, the city development program. So all these things will be incorporated into this. You see, the city development, so there will be a new act that is coming into parliament. So that is why this national government is very important, because of the we need to change this constitution. This constitution is still weak. An incomplete constitution. That is why we are now looking forward for a government which needs a two-thirds majority in parliament to get certain constitutions enacted. The constitutional changes are required for a stable and a developed country to be developed. So this is very important. So our leader is looking at all that options. So when this megapolis, when all that come as an authority, so that is again a project launched and a thought of our leader, and I'm sure everybody will.
Your Worship, thank you so much for being with us here on Newsline this morning. And unfortunately, we've run out of time. But just before we wrap up, Faraz, is there any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our viewers this morning?
Indeed. Political language is designed to make lies truthful and murder respectable, and to give an appearance of solidity to pure wind, with thanks to George Orwell, of course.
Thank you, Faraz. And on that note, we wrap up Newsline for today. Of course, be with us tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock as well for Newsline. Thank you.